Hi there! In this video I want to give a brief introduction into Western music theory. Let's start. Notation. Those lines are called staff. On the left you can see the so-called treble clef. There are other types of clefs as well, like the bass clef or the alt clef or this thing. We write notes on or between the lines. The higher the note is on the staff, the higher it is on an instrument. This note here is called A. Counting upwards, we will continue in alphabetical order until we reach G. After G, we start with A again. Now most of you probably already know that there's another note between, for example, A and B. We can add this note by putting a sharp or a flat in front of the notes. These notes are then called A sharp or B flat. There are no additional notes between B and C and E and F, so there's a total of 12 different notes until the cycle repeats. Intervals. An interval describes the distance between two notes. The smallest possible interval is the perfect unison, which means that both notes sound the same. Bigger intervals can be counted in so-called half or semitones. One halftone step also is one key difference on the piano. Now, for any number of halftone steps, there's an interval. You can see the first 12 in this list. The most important ones are the minor and major third, the perfect fifth, and the octave. Scales. A scale is like a pool of notes that a song or piece is crafted from. The most important scales are the major scale and the minor scale. Let's take a look at C major. As you can see, the scale has 7 notes until it repeats. Also, it only consists of half and whole tone steps. For any major scale, the half-tone steps are from the 3rd to the 4th note and from the 7th to the 8th. To use other scales, we have to use flats and sharps. For example, G major looks like this. On the circle of fifth, you can easily see which scale has which accidentals. C major has no accidentals. The fifth up from C is G, and G major has one sharp. A fourth lower than C is F. F major has one flat. Another important thing to notice is that every major scale has a related minor scale that has the same accidentals. You can find them on the inside of the circle of fifth or by counting a minor third downwards from the respective major scale. Chords. A chord is several notes playing at the same time. In Western music theory, chords are built by stacking thirds on top of each other. The most often used chords are the major and the minor triad. If we look at F major, we can form it by going up a major third from the root and then a minor third. It is the other way around for F minor. This is the pattern for any major and minor chord. We can form inversions of these chords by putting the second or the third note an octave lower. Functions. The major scale has 7 notes, and each of these notes can be the root of a chord. Now each of these chords has a so-called function within the key of the scale. You can see them here for the key of C major. Now if you take another look at the circle of fifth, you can see they correlate strongly. Voice leading. I want to shortly talk about voice leading because I think it's a very important concept in harmony. Now voice leading means that every note in a chord is considered as in its own melody, so we want notes to progress logically in the next chords, and it is considered better if there are no big jumps. Let's take a look at the 4-5-1 progression in the key of C major. These are the chords in the key of C major. They are called C major, F major, and G major. Now like this, there are a lot of notes without any direction. This is why we use the first inversion of F and the second inversion of G, and we get this. Tempo. In electronic music, the term beats per minute is often used, and it describes quite accurately what the tempo is. On sheet music you will often see something like this. It means play at a tempo of 120 beats in 1 minute. Classical composers, though, often wrote weird Italian words like allegro or andante on top of their pieces. Those describe a certain feeling rather than a specific tempo. For example, maestoso means slowly but powerful and energetic. Pulse. Western music divides songs in so-called bars, and usually every bar has the same length. There's something called time signature that describes the structure of these bars, as well as something like an overall pulse of a piece. The most common time signature is 4/4. It tells you that the bar is divided into 4 evenly spaced beats, and usually the first and the third beat are emphasized. The standard rhythm in 4/4 could sound like this. Now there are many other time signatures, and even music without any steady pulse. But for now, let's continue. Note value. The last thing I want to talk about is the note value. The note value describes for how long a note lasts, but it is quite useless to look at the note values without any context, so I'll just shortly explain the math behind it. A whole note has the same length as 2 half notes, so half notes are twice as fast as whole notes. A half note is as long as 2 quarter notes, so quarter notes are twice as fast as half notes and 4 times faster than whole notes. This continues with 8th, 16th and 32nd notes. A triplet means that 3 notes take the same space that normally 2 of that kind would take. Also, there are dotted notes and notes with slurs that extend the length of a note. In this video, I've barely scratched the surface of music theory. In fact, there are books written about each of these topics. But I find it quite hard to understand the theory without any context. So next time I will look at a piece called Canon in D, and I hope you will join me again. Until then, stay healthy.